What does Bloomsburg University, the Edison Hotel in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, and Bucknell University all have in common? They are haunted. Hi, I'm GHD Hannah.
And I'm Corsia Jake.
And you're listening to Soltz Spills the Tea, a podcast from Soltz Hall. So, whether you like it or not, and whether you know it or not, or want to accept it, Bloomsburg University is known for some hot spots that happen to be haunted on campus, or around campus. One of them happens to be the Delta Phi Epsilon House. What? Okay, edit that out. So, there have been accounts of a woman walking through the house, messing with lights, laughing. I don't know about you, but I would not be down for that, and I would definitely feel some type of way if I was laying in my bed and someone happened to be just laughing at me, but it wasn't one of my roommates. This goes as far to say that some have even experienced her pushing them down the stairs and choking residents of the house while they sleep. Now,
No, thank you. No, thank you.
No, thank you is for sure.
Nope.
I have not known anyone personally who's lived in this house, but all I'm saying is that if there's a ghost that's after me and choking me in my sleep, I'm not going to be, totally privy to living there.
Yeah, I have a feeling that that Greek life organization has very low members joining. I feel like that might affect their enrollment a bit, knowing there's some ladies trying to strangle them.
Some ladies trying to strangle you, I don't know. I'm just saying. Okay, so it might be some hype around the organization, like, ooh, don't come to our house, or ooh, come to our house because it's haunted. But definitely, something to consider when you're joining any organization, living in any house is, has someone there been haunted? So, Jake, I'm going to ask you, do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in haunting?
Definitely. I definitely do. I think there's also a cat meowing again in this episode. I think from stuff that I've personally experienced or people I know that I trust, that wouldn't lie to me, have experienced, different stories and very related stories from people who never even talk to each other, having very similar experiences. Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely a real thing. I definitely believe in it.
I'm right there with you. I mean, I can't say that I've had one defining experience of, oh, this is definitely real, but I've for sure had some creepy experiences and things that have, raised the hair on the back of my neck and made me take pause. So I would definitely say that these things are real. And one of the things that I don't know, sends chills down my spine when I think about them and talk about them. But, like I said, I haven't had one defining moment that tells me, yes, this is a thing. Have you ever been haunted, do you think?
I don't think, personally I've been haunted, I don't think, there was a spirit following me around or anything like that.
Other than that cat?
I definitely had experiences that were kind of spooky and make you think. You can hear the cat giving their input in the background.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think just between some of the things that I've personally experienced, even just the minor things, they just kind of make you think that all these stories that people have that are bigger than what I've experienced, I think it just kind of supports the fact that those things could be real.
Right.
I think that I haven't personally experienced anything on campus. I've heard stories of people experiencing things on campus. Some of these ones that we're going to go over, I've heard people talk about first person that I know. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that if I lived in a house and some lady tried to push me down the stairs, or these other ones we're going to get into, if I experienced these things, man, I would drop out. I'm going to a different university if I experience that.
Oh my gosh, let's not ruin some retention here, but definitely these things make you take pause and, oh gosh, maybe I need to bring a priest in here, do a sage cleansing. I don't know.
Definitely.
Whatever the practice is, but definitely some situations that don't make you totally comfortable. But speaking of campus, one thing that I've heard of, and I've only been on campus for 2 years, so you might have some more insight or more stories, but something that is freaky to me is the 4th floor of the library. Have you heard the story about the 4th floor?
Yeah, so I've heard I've heard the general story, which is that, there's this man who roams the fourth floor kind of thing that, is obviously a ghost. I've heard some varying aspects of it. I've heard he's a man in a suit that like roams around. My family's very loud, everyone can enjoy their sounds in the background. But yeah, I've heard like, he's a man in a suit that roams around. I've also heard this other rumor, which sounds extremely crazy, but he's apparently a man in a diaper who asks people to change his diaper on the floor, and then he disappears. I swear.
You are lying to me. You're
I'm
lying.
not making that up. I like from like freshman year when I got to Bloom till now, like I've heard multiple people like tell me that they.
I have never experienced something like that in the library, but I will say definitely going up to the fourth floor has felt a little bit eerie in the very least. Jake, so tell me more about the stories that you've heard.
All right, well, for one, I just want to say I have been in the library very few times, but the times that I went to like the third floor and I looked at the staircase going up to the fourth, I knew there was no shot I was going up there. Like you couldn't pay me to head up to the fourth floor. But freshman year was that this person's friend was on the fourth floor of the library, and they saw this man come around the corner. And he was wearing a diaper, obviously. I thought it was kind of crazy, but this person, reassured me that their friend wouldn't lie to them about this. And so this man came up to them and was like, I need you to change my diaper. And the person was like, my friend was freaked out. Like, there's this man asking me to change his diaper.
How could you not be freaked out? How could you not be?
You'd be freaked out too. So I guess they said their friend was like, I can't help you there, buddy. And, and they like turned around and walked away. And when they turned back, he wasn't there anymore.
Oh, no.
And it was like one of those things where it's like, and this like, goes with whatever I've heard. Like I've heard people say like they've seen this man and then he's just like disappeared into a wall, or like just like, like he was there 1 second and then he wasn't. So very, do not go on the fourth floor of the library. I don't even know what's up there that would make you go up there. I don't know if it's just more rooms, like study rooms and tables. But I mean, there's printers on the first floor. That's more than enough for me. I don't need to go up to the top.
Yeah, we encourage you to go to the library for anything and everything academically related, but that fourth floor, just avoid it. Just avoid it altogether.
It's definitely not worth it. It's not worth your time, trust me. Unless unless you're like trying to do your own little Ghostbusters YouTube series. If you want to go visit up there and see what you can find, go for it. Send us some clips or something. But I'm not firsthand going up there. No way.
So the other thing that I want to highlight on campus, because we totally want to keep you feeling totally comfortable and totally safe on campus, is Haas Auditorium. Jake, I don't know if you've heard this one, but apparently there's a ghostly man named Ned who is a deceased ballet dancer, and he's said to be heard crying during some of the productions that they have at the Haas Auditorium because he can no longer participate in them. And that's just like a little bit of a heartbreaking story, but I mean,
that one's definitely kind of sad.
Yeah.
That one's one of those where it's like, it's creepy, but at the same time, it hits you in your feels a little bit. Like there's this ghost that's just sad, crying, appreciating the art that they can no longer partake in. It's not as scary because from the stories, you can tell they're not like pushing you down the stairs or choking you in your sleep. It's very, it's sincere and appreciative of the work that the people put on there. So, right. But still, I'm not putting on performances anytime soon. So, I'm glad about that.
To all of our friends who will be performing at the Haas Auditorium, all we can say is save some room for Ned when you take your bow.
Yeah, definitely. The stories I've heard of I've heard stories of people saying that they were doing like practice runs. There's no one in the audience like watching except for maybe like, a couple people that aren't in that scene or whatever. And they've heard like this crying out in the back of the auditorium or like just like clapping or whatever. So it's one thing to like, you can try and rationalize it if you're putting on a live performance and there's people there and you hear like crying and clapping and stuff like that. You can say like, oh, someone's parents just really proud or like whatever the case may be. But if there's no one else there, and it's just you and your friends in the organization or class or whatever's going on in there, and you hear that. Oh no.
Definitely not too sure how I'd be feeling. Might run out, but
Might? I'm definitely running out.
You're going?
I'll catch you.
So yeah, those are the three or four things I've really heard about campus. Nothing big other than that, but that's not to say that there aren't a ton of haunted places near and surrounding Bloomsburg. Some of them that I have heard about, we've got a pretty bone-chilling story from Bucknell, which is not too far from our campus. We've heard things from the Edison Hotel in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, not too far down the road as well. But also the Jim Thorpe jail that's been turned into a museum. And I could try to tell you the story and do it justice, but actually today, this week for the Soltz Spills the Tea podcast, we have a special guest. Michaela Blakesley is a graduate student in the College Student Affairs program here at Bloomsburg University, but she just happens to be an employee of the old jail museum in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, and she's here to tell us some of her stories today.
Hi, Jake. Hi, Hannah. Thanks for having me. As Hannah said, I am a tour guide at the Old Jail Museum. I have a couple of experiences myself, and we know people often come to our jail to have experiences themselves. Our most haunted area is the cell block. Many often come in to see the handprint left on the wall by one of the Molly Maguires. 7 Molly Maguires were hanged in the Jim Thorpe jail. One of them left a handprint on cell 17's wall, saying that that handprint would remain there forever to prove he was innocent. To this day, that handprint remains, and a lot of ghostly activity goes on in that cell, so much so that they even had to stop keeping prisoners in that cell long before the jail closed.
Oh no.
As a tour guide, I experienced stuff walking through the cell block.
Wait, Michaela, before you go on, since you work there, you can attest, you've seen this handprint, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure people have, maybe tried to touch it, take a picture, or with renovations, how has it not washed away? I don't know, Jake, if you have any speculation on that, but how can a handprint just not go away? You know what I mean?
So they have tried multiple times to get rid of it. They've even knocked out that wall and rebuilt it. My great uncle actually painted that wall once. Painted the handprint over the handprint first, then moved on. Turned around to gather his supplies to go on to the next cell, and the handprint was back. Oh. So it just kind of shows up.
No way.
I don't know, Jake. Part of me is no way could that happen. No. They've either added a new handprint, I don't know. But that in and of itself, if that doesn't give you cause to believe that ghosts are real, I don't know. But Michaela, obviously, I'm sure you have more to share with us.
Yeah, walking through the cell block, you often hear noises, you feel like you're being watched. Tour guides will stand under the replica of the gallows that we have there to show what it looked like when those men were hanged. And as we name the 7 Molly Maguires that were hanged there, the nooses that we have there will sometimes just start swinging.
No!
Above us. And, we don't know it, but we'll see people looking over our heads in, fear. Lights don't stay on for very long. When you plug a light in, it burns out very quickly, more quickly than a light should when they're supposed to, last for 2 years. There's all kinds of noises, shadow figures, going on in the dungeon. I don't know a single tour guide who goes down there alone to turn off the lights at night. My own and very scary experience actually happened upstairs where the women's cells and the warden and his family used to live. I was turning off the lights at the end of the day, and we follow a very specific path. The bathroom's one of the last lights we turn off. We turned it off. I left. I felt like something was behind me. I reached the top of the stairs, went to turn off the rest of the lights to the hallway, turned around, and there was something coming at me that looked humanoid, but the arms and legs were far too long, and it was galloping at me.
Galloping!
Galloping!
Oh
It's the best word I have for it. And so I gasped, hit the lights. I have never gone down those stairs so fast, and I never went back up there by myself again.
Gasped? I feel like might be an understatement if that were me in that experience, and I don't know.
I didn't know what else to do.
He was coming for you.
Yes.
That's horrible. That's horrifying.
It is horrifying. All I can say is kudos for working there. And you still work there?
Yeah, I intend to go back and work this summer again.
Nah, you're crazy. You're crazy. They must be paying you the big bucks if you're going back. I'm sorry.
Well, when Slendy comes to visit her, maybe we'll know.
And next time you see him, can you ask if he'll come on the podcast?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure they'll be agreeable.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, thanks for hopping on, Michaela. I'm sure our listeners will be terrified by your story, just like we are.
I'm scared, and I'm just sitting here.
He's coming for you in your sleep tonight, Jake.
Oh my gosh. If anyone has been to this prison museum that's listening and wants to share their experiences, please do. Or if they have anything similar, or they can relate to what Michaela just said, I would love to hear it, because I'd rather hear the stories than to experience it firsthand, that's for sure.
I would have to agree with you, Jake. And this is just a little plug, but last week we did have an issue with our comment feature, and some people are having issues with commenting below, but that should all be fixed. So like Jake said, we'd love to hear your stories and experiences, so make sure you drop them below or send them our way through email. If you have our contact information, we definitely want to hear your stories, just not experience something like, Slenderman coming at us.
I'm cool.
So obviously we heard some interesting stories from Michaela, who works at the Jim Thorpe Old Jail Museum, but there's some other stories surrounding the Bloomsburg community, or like not too far from the Bloomsburg area, and one that when Jake and I were looking into some things in preparation for this podcast happened at Bucknell University, and we can not get over how it made us feel. So at Bucknell, there is a residence hall called Hunt Hall. I think it's a residence hall, or it at least used to be. And this was built in 1928. And Hunt Hall, not too far from Haunt Hall. I don't know if it's gotten that name on campus, but listen to this story about an old resident of the hall whose name was Angela. Angela has made herself known in manifestations and poltergeist activities such as moving objects around. But she doesn't stop there. Jake, tell them what happens.
All right, I'm going to read the direct quote off of the website that we found this on, that I'm guessing is quoted from somebody who's experienced something like this. The quote is, Angela is reported to enjoy trying on various dresses left hanging on doors and even been seen walking around in them.
No freaking way.
This ghost, Angela, we can use her name, out of respect for her ghostliness. She tries on dresses that I guess female residents or male residents that have laying around on their, on the back of their doors, on their beds. She tries them on, and some have even seen her wearing it in the hallways.
Let me just ask you, if you came back to Soltz Hall, our little humble abode, and you saw someone, or didn't even see someone, but saw something in the hallway with your clothing on, I'd dip. I'd be gone so fast.
And it's one of those things where it's like, if you didn't hear the story, right? If you lived in this dormitory and you were not aware of Angela, and you come back and you see, someone, this I guess, female looking character standing in the hallway wearing, that dress that you left out because, you got a date party that night or whatever the case may be, or you have an event to go to, you got to get dressed up for, and you see someone wearing your dress, first thought in my mind would be, homie, how did you get in my room? And why are you wearing my dress? That's what I'm thinking.
And next,
but if you
I'm never going to wear that again. I don't know if that's what you're
definitely not. But, imagine, right, just, making light of the situation. You see her wearing your dress, and then she just walks and, phases through the wall, and your dress you just never see your dress again. It's just gone. Your dress is gone because Angela walked off with it. She just totally nabbed your style, and now it's gone. And now you got to go buy a new dress from Marshall's because you're out of a dress.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I don't know. I would love... if this happens to reach someone at Bucknell and they have a story about Angela, we would absolutely love to hear it, because that one just blew our mind.
Seriously.
Yeah, can't imagine ever seeing.
You've heard so many ghost stories of things moving, objects, turning off lights, making sounds. I've never once heard of a ghost that tries on your clothes. That's got to be the first for just about anybody listening to this, right?
Right. Well, okay, so also when I think of a ghost, I don't think, we have seen in the movies or in media or from our own personal experiences, different forms of ghosts, and what do they look like, how do they appear, how do they manifest. And very typically, you know, I would conjure up an image of like a very light, airy creature thing who I wouldn't think like can physically take such material and put it on themselves. It's just so hard to imagine.
Yeah, no, it's you know, is these stories, is it literally like this woman that they see in the hall wearing their dress, or is their dress just floating in the hallway, you know? Like, because
that would be so much more.
I want to look more into this, and like I want to talk to someone firsthand that's experienced this.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many times this has been experienced, or how long since it's been experienced, you know, since, I mean, the hall's been around for, you know, they're going on, you know, 90 years, you know, almost 100 years kind of thing. Like, has there been recent stories? You know, there's got to be more about this online that I'm just gonna have to look it up, because that's truly a baffling story out of all the ghost stories I've heard.
Yeah, I would agree. And yeah, if you happen to know, please share your stories with us, because we just love to hear. There is something I want to share, other than the Bucknell story that we have talked about, and that's the Hotel Edison in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. For those who don't know where Sunbury is, it sits in Northumberland County, which is like a neighboring county to Columbia County, where Bloomsburg University is situated. And the Hotel Edison, was originally built in, I believe, the late 1800s, and it was wired by Edison Electric Illuminating Company, and its lights became operational. But and you know, that's seen as special because these were incandescent light bulbs, and it was the first building in the world to have them, apparently, which I found interesting. But it's definitely said to be haunted, and part of what's so interesting about this is how the lights are used within the haunting. There are two ghosts who are most famous to this building. One, his name is unknown, but he is reported to be nasty, and he resides in the basement. And the other ghost is a woman who goes by the name of Ramona, or is known by the name of Ramona, and she is said to haunt the upper floors. But the thing is, these lights were an older sort of model, can't be used anymore. But there's apparently a photograph hanging in the lobby of the Hotel Edison, which depicts an apparition of one of the young spirits, but the lights can be seen even though they no longer worked, which I think is creepy, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, Jake.
So this is the first I'm hearing about this, you know, what you just said. That's, you know, the first one you said about the ghost who, you know, is kind of mean, you know, doesn't have a name. That's really scary. But I mean, like, these lights that are seen to be working, but they're so outdated that there's no way they would be. Like, how do you explain something like that? You know,
right?
Like, logically, because when people talk about, you know, these paranormal, you know, events, everyone tries to look at it from a logical, like, scientific, to debunk it, which makes sense, you know, because it's hard for our imagination and our brain to wrap our heads around that. But
right.
How do you logically, scientifically, you know, rationalize some type of technology working that shouldn't be?
Right. And is it an optical illusion? Is it an old photograph with some sort of, you know, issue in how the film was developed? I don't know. But to me, considering the history behind the building and the lights that were put into it, I don't know. I take pause, and I think it could be reasonable to believe some kind of ghost, whether the nasty one or the one we know as Ramona, is putting it there. I don't know. Kind of makes me feel like something's going on there for sure. And it's, you know,
there has to be.
Yeah. And it's said to be one of the more haunted buildings in Pennsylvania. If there, you know, if we had more time, we would go on and on, because there's, you know, a lot to talk about. But some things that you might want to look up on your own time if you're interested in looking up some haunted places in Pennsylvania are Katie's Church in Washingtonville. That's in Montour County. You could also look up the Demon's Den, and that's also known as, I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Osnichen, but you can just know it as Demon's Den. That's in lower west branch of the Susquehanna River, and that's in Lycoming County. These are all pretty close to us, us who are in Bloomsburg University or in the Bloomsburg area. Some other places are the Haunted Forest of Maston. That's also in Lycoming County. Some other places, you might hear different stories from different universities, Bucknell, Susquehanna, Bloomsburg. Check them out. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you've had any experiences, if you've known of any experiences. But I don't know, Jake, any final thoughts on this creepy, unsettling episode?
I just have to say, after last episode with conspiracy theories and this episode with, haunted places, the possibilities of what happens, on our planet, outside of our planet, in our everyday lives going to Bloomsburg University, they're just endless and they're horrifying. And the fact when you can't rationalize something like that or wrap your head around it, it truly just proves, there's got to be more out there than, humanity.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It's kind of unsettling, I will say.
Yeah, I think next week we might have to do a little bit more of an uplifting.
Yeah, more lighthearted, fun kind of topic. We're going to have to brainstorm some ideas because I'm afraid to even record anymore. There's just too much scary stuff going on around here.
Someone's watching us, and we better look behind our shoulders, because whether it's the Illuminati or that nasty ghost who lives in the basement of the Hotel Edison,
Oh my gosh.
we're gonna have to watch out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Slender Man
no
coming for you in your sleep.
Oh no, I can't. Good thing this episode's over, or else, I won't be able to sleep tonight.
Well, just text me if you need me, Jake, because
I got you.
I'm here for you.
Man.
We thank you for tuning in this week, and we hope that you have enjoyed listening to Soltz Spills the Tea. This is GHD Hannah and Corsier Jake signing off. Have a great week. Hey Huskies, it is GHD Hannah, and I'm coming to you to talk about some resources that are available to you for this week. So, Be a Healthy Husky, the initiative that we plugged last week, has a new theme, and that is maintain positive, healthy, and supportive relationships. There's a series of events that's coming up this week, starting Sunday, April 19th, and that goes to Friday, April 24th. Anything from gentle yoga with Shannon Musgrove, as that's been happening, to talking about COVID and managing our mental health, resiliency skills training, and dealing with the uncertainty that's going on during this unprecedented time. Also, you can fill out a student assistant form if there's something that you need, and be sure to make sure that you check out internet.bloomu.edu/students to see if there are resources that may be helpful to you. Thanks for listening in. This has been Soltz Spills the Tea.